right, let's get these streams up and going. That's good. Oh, that's it. Let's try another one. There we go. All right, I think we're good now. I shared it, so I'm good there. Good morning, almost afternoon. We're like right on the cusp of morning, afternoon. How's it going, everyone? We are just getting prepared here to do another Mindful Monday. Gotta pull up this article that we're gonna be talking about today. Nick, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing all right. Just so.
I'm doing all right. It's good. Good way to start the week. I am a MacBook user and just a iPhone user in general, so Apple products. Does anyone else like store a whole bunch of stuff in their notes? Like I swear I keep everything in there. I have a whole lot of them and they're very very important for me. Cool. All right. But so Nick, let's go ahead and get things started with a mindful moment. As usual, we take this time to start these lives just to pause, to breathe, to reconnect to the here and now, and to be where we are. There's so much value in resting in the present moment, and it will allow us to, as we talk about all the time, more mindfully manage our energy. So, we'll go ahead and we'll do a few rounds of balanced breathing. I'll count us through that. It's just a 6 second inhale, 6 second exhale. And then once we do a few rounds of that together, I'll hand it over to Nick and he will guide us through an awareness exercise. So you want to be mindful of your posture here. You want to act as if you have a string that's attached to the top of your head, gently pulling you upward. So you want to sit in a nice solid posture. And you want to inhale through your nose. And for balanced breathing, normally, right, there's a breath pattern that you can do anywhere at any time just to help you reconnect to the here and now. I would normally recommend in your like everyday life to do it inhale and exhale through your nose, but in this case, you can do inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. It'll kind of just help your body relax a little bit more in this present moment here. All right, so that's what we'll do. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. I will count us down three, two, one, and we will get started. All right. Three, two, one. Inhale. Two, three, four, five, six. Exhale. Two, three, four, five, six. Inhale. Two, three, four, five, six. Exhale. Two, three, four, five, six. Inhale, two, three, four, five, six. Exhale, two, three, four, five, six. Continue to breathe at your normal breathing pattern.
Take this moment to focus in on something that you are grateful for today. And sit and meditate on the gratitude that you have for this thing for a few breaths. Dope. Thank you all for joining us today for this mindful moment. See, the reason I picked gratitude today is because sometimes it's extremely simple to bring ourselves back to the present moment by creating ourselves that we enjoy. And since gratitude brings at least extremely happy feeling, that is what wanted to create for everybody else today.
Cool. Yeah, gratitude is definitely a very powerful emotional state to be in. I know some describe it as it makes what we have enough by us focusing in on what it is within our current reality that we are grateful for. It allows us to fully be where we are, fully engage with what we currently have, and not necessarily be caught up in things that we don't have, or things that we used to have, right? We're just focusing in on what is right here in this moment, which is so powerful to rest in from time to time. So, yes, thank you, Nick, for bringing our awareness to our gratitude. And I will recommend, it is the seventh step of the Balanced Blueprint. The focus for that step is gratitude, but I highly recommend cultivating a gratitude practice of your own, whether that's just bringing something that you're grateful for to mind on a regular basis, or keeping a way to like track it, whether that's keeping a note in your phone, as I mentioned before. I use a lot of those, or just writing it down in your journal. When you are focusing on what you're grateful for, just jot it down. And you can utilize that as a way to cultivate gratitude within your life over time. So keep that in mind. All right. So for today, we'll do a brief just reflection on where we have been over this last week. And then we'll talk a little bit more about this article that I was mentioning before. It was one that crossed one of the newsletters that I'm subscribed to. I saw it and was like, wow, it's definitely worth bringing our attention and awareness to the fact that on a large scale, we are experiencing unease based on what's happening outside of our control. So I figured we could have some dialogue around it and offer up some ways for us to cope with what we are experiencing right now as a world. So, Nick, I'll give you some space. How has the last week for you been? What are some things that's been happening in your life?
Oh man, things have been good. As always, I'm just enjoying the journey, enjoying the experiences that I create. I say specifically, man, it was just a weekend with my dog. We had a friend come over and stay, and he just did not want to sleep. So I didn't get a whole lot of sleep to make sure that they got sleep. And yeah, as you can see, I'm a little tired right now, but I figure by tomorrow I'll be back to 100%. But that's pretty much been it. My life isn't like, I wouldn't define it as super exciting because I don't create it to be that way. It's more so now the journey of allowance and acceptance. And what I've learned is by allowing it to be that way, it opens up my perspective in ways that I never really noticed before in on how I can view life or experience life. So I have gotten away from trying to make it something big and more so just being happy with what it is right now and going at it from that perspective.
Gotcha. How has that been so far? Or I guess even to take it a little bit back, what made you want to do that? Like what prompted you to say, "Hey, I no longer want to create an exciting life for myself," or can you actually elaborate on that a little
Yeah.
bit more? Is it
So
like a yeah,
I got away. It was when I got away from goals, when I quit goal setting, when I cut goals out of my life completely. One thing I realized, at least the perspective that I hold on it, was that I was going to be doing goals for my entire life. Anything I've noticed that anything within the system of life that we live in, this structure that I find myself doing, that I would say, well, if I do this, I'll do this for the rest of my life. I tend to pull away from that because one thing that I noticed, at least for me, is that it creates a cycle. It creates this routine of being a certain way. And of course, you can create yourselves differently in certain times. And, well, you can create who you want to be at any time. I just noticed for myself this pattern of when I start something, I'm gonna create myself as a version in that. And I just got away from that. I've been doing that pretty much my whole entire life. And so I want to create a new experience. So by cutting out goals, I no longer had nothing that I needed to be or needed to strive for. And that began to open me up to being more present and letting go of this aspect of myself that my identity was so tied up in. because that's where it really fell down into, and that's something we can talk about today with stress and stuff like that. Was because my identity was still rooted outside of me and things, and I didn't realize how deep that went. Like the aspect of myself, whether I was worthy enough, all these things were still rooted in stuff that was outside of me, and I wanted to make myself my source, and so I began to cut the things off that I would attach myself to where it would be only me left. And that's pretty much what I'm figuring out now.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, yeah, definitely looking forward to hearing more about what this, creates and the experience that you have, with this. Um, yeah, cool. All right. Let's think. Last week, I feel like I a lot of what I remember from last week was just associated with what was happening for us, like as a business. So we got an opportunity to do a speech, well, not really a speech, more like a presentation, I should say, for a group of social workers and teachers in the Indianapolis area, which is something that we've been wanting to do for a while. It's definitely a goal that we set as an organization, and it was great for that goal to come to fruition and for us to have the experience to interact with a demographic that we are striving to serve, which are our educators, because of the direct influence that they have on our next generation. And so it's just right along the lines of our mission to do this. And I'm just grateful that we've gotten an opportunity to do it. And not just that we got to do it, because that's one aspect of it, but just the engagement that we were able to get from this group was powerful, in my opinion, because it showed that these individuals, there's a need for what it is that we talk about. And that they want some, solutions to the problems that they face on a daily basis as it pertains to managing their energy and feeling good so that they can best serve their scholars, right, and the other staff members that they serve in whatever role that they're in. So I think it's powerful that we're able to get an opportunity to serve them, and I'm looking forward to more to come in that regard from the business side. So that was a lot of fun last week. Um, and then honestly, a lot of my time was also preparing for this daylight savings because I knew that my sleep was going to get thrown off just a tad, which is natural. To shift time for an hour, which still blows my mind. I'm like, how can we just change what time it is? But that's another conversation for another day. But yeah, so it was just doing my best to stay as consistent as possible. I was just trying to keep my sleep as consistent as I could so that now I'll be able to. Yes, it's kind of like a bit of jet lag. I would say, like in the mornings, I started the day off today a little bit slower than what I normally did. I'm just giving myself grace, giving myself some time to let my body adjust to not waking up at the same time as I used to. Technically, I'm waking up a little earlier than normal because my body, for my body, when I woke up today at 6:45, it was technically 5:45 based on what my body knew. So just giving myself a little bit of grace, giving myself some time, and just looking to keep the habits that I'm practicing consistent around my like evening routine, my bedtime schedule, and all that good stuff, so that I can bounce back from this adjustment and continue to maintain the high energy levels that will help me execute, at the highest level that I can for, business, personal life, all those good things. So last week was fun. I enjoyed it in a lot of different ways, and I'm excited for what this week has to offer. So
Nice.
let's see here. Anything in the comments? Don't have anything in the comments yet, but if you ever have any questions as you are tuned in to the show, feel free to throw it in the comment section. If you're on YouTube, throw it there, or if you're on Facebook, you can throw it there as well. Let's see. No, Siri, I am not talking to you. All right. So what I'm going to do now is throw the link to several things for our organization. The first is going to be ways that you can subscribe to our Mindful Monday newsletter. All right. Oh, no, that's not what I wanted to do. That didn't happen the way that I thought it would. No, no. Okay. It's not going the way that I expected, but it's okay. What?
It'd be like that sometimes.
Okay. I'm just gonna put it in here anyway because I think it's gonna take you all where I wanted to take you, but it's not the specific link. Redirect description. Sure. Oh nope, it's not gonna work. All right, I'm gonna have to do this another way. So, um, let's see here. It's fine. Click the link in our bio on any of our social media platforms. I'm just gonna say that now because the link to it is there. But I'm gonna pull it up on my end so that I can get the specific link for you. There we go. All right. So I just put it in the chat for YouTube and for Facebook. So this is where you can find our newsletter. Every Monday, we drop it in your inbox. There's a breathing exercise that you can use not just to start the week, but that you can take with you throughout the week. There is also a quote, something just to motivate you a little bit, inspire you a little bit. There's also direct links to the weekly episode of the show. Last week, we were talking about 3 ways that you can better manage your morning routine. And then there's just resources. There's resources like articles, videos, and actually guided meditation each week just to help reinforce some of the things that we talk about, right? Help you continue to expand your awareness, to learn, grow, and to develop into a better version of yourself. So be sure to subscribe to the Balance Period Mindful Monday newsletter. That was very long, but that is what it's called. All right. The next thing I'm gonna put in there is a link to our energy management guide. Now, we talk about being able to more mindfully manage your energy on this show quite a bit. And the reason why is because when you mindfully manage your energy, then you're putting your body and mind in the best position to operate at its optimal function, right? Each one of us has a level of optimal function that we can work from, but when we don't align our mindset, our motivation, and our habits with our body's ability and mind's ability to operate at a high level, then we're missing out on opportunities to tap into our full potential. So, this guide will take you step by step through the process of expanding your awareness of how you spend your time and energy so that you can make more informed and mindful decisions about how you manage it moving forward. So, be sure to check that out. I put that in both the link, or I put the link in both of the comment section in the YouTube and Facebook. All right, so check that out. Okay. Now, anything that you want to add? Anything else you want to bring people's awareness to?
Nope, we all good.
All right. So let me share my screen and pull up this article real quick. I got a lot of tabs open. Does anyone else have a lot of tabs that they keep open? I do my best to only have like 1 or 2 at a time, just because I feel like that allows me to focus my attention a little bit better. But I got a lot of them rolling right now. I'm gonna have to make some adjustments once we get off this live today. All right.
I'd be having like 6 windows.
Oh, you have like different windows. Is it just like
Hmm.
one
That's how
tab
I keep.
in each one?
Nah, it's how I keep track of my tabs. Like I won't do different. Like if I'm on YouTube, I keep a window with just tabs for YouTube.
Mm,
That way, it's not on a bunch of different. Cause I have different profiles. I have like 5 different like Gmail profiles on my computer that I switch in between.
interesting. Why? Why you got so many? I know I have a couple.
Because
Yeah, what
throughout
do
my
you do
life,
with all of those?
I've made certain accounts throughout my life that are associated with different email addresses, and I just never. It's just I've always kept track of it like this. Instead of making going through and changing emails or creating new accounts and stuff, nah, I just keep it like this.
Do you use like all of those emails still? Like, do people send you stuff and you actually go in and check them?
I don't even, I barely check the emails that I got. I made a brand like I made a whole new email that I haven't set to any newsletter to anything. That all it does is it filters out messages that you send me or messages that like any person I set up for it to send me to where they all come to that account and that's where I check my actual emails at rather than the other stuff because I've signed up for so many things throughout my life, especially when I got like early into the professional and personal development space. I was signing up to everything, every newsletter, every. COO, every marketing course, all this stuff. I was doing everything. And I started to go through and unsubscribe, but yeah, forget that. That's a lot of time that I don't feel like spending doing something.
Hey, I mean, you figured out a way for it to work for you. I guess as long as you're getting the most important pieces of mail, then you're good to go. All right.
Exactly.
So this is the article that I came across, and this is the Your Health section of NPR. And it's just the headline here: Americans' stress is spiking over inflation and the war in Ukraine. And so, as I mentioned before, right, there are things that are currently happening outside of our control right now in the world. And a couple of them are in this headline, both inflation and the war in Ukraine. And so, oftentimes, when things like this happen and we're focusing our energy on these things like inflation, like these gas prices being way, way higher than what most people are used to seeing, and, this whole war, right? Like this is stuff that you would read in history books that are happening in real time. And so it's a lot going on. But when you think about it, right, we were just talking about mindfully managing your energy. And I know personally, I take this back to, boy, sorry, Milo just almost lifted up my desk. Um, but I think about what I talked about in a couple episodes ago in the Balance Period podcast, how at the beginning of the pandemic, I was literally waking up every morning and going right to Johns Hopkins website and looking at the death toll of how many people had died from COVID. And me focusing my energy there to start my day every day was detrimental to my wellness from the inside out. Like mentally, I was like felt drained, I felt defeated, felt hopeless, and physically my body also, it took a toll on my body too over time from doing that. And so the fact that there are these things that are currently happening that can produce stress, it's understanding that where we focus our energy during these times will determine our quality of life and, right, the change that we're able to affect in our community, and being able to support the people that we want to support based on what's happening. And so I wanted to highlight this because it's important to be mindful of what you consume in this regard. We talk about that to a certain degree. We normally associate it with food, but in this case, like being mindful of the consumption of like media, the consumption of whatever audio that you're listening to surrounding what it is that's going on right now, just being intentional about that consumption and being sure to balance that out for yourself to make sure that you're prioritizing time for activities and things that bring you peace, because there are stressful things currently happening in life that we can't really escape, but that we are able to, that's Milo, he's going a little crazy, that we're able to manage based on how we, focus our time and attention and energy. So, Nick, talk a little bit about, after you reading this headline, what are some things that come to mind?
Man, I just think so when I see anything that has to do with stress, that just my first thought goes, okay, well, there's a lack of accountability and a lack of acceptance. And the reason why I choose that is because when you hold yourself accountable for the life that you're creating, for what you're experiencing, you realize, okay, the stress that I'm feeling is exactly what I'm choosing. And when you get that, when you use that acceptance as well, it's like, okay, yeah, this is where I'm at right now, and this is what I'm choosing right now. But because I know that I'm choosing this for myself, I know I don't have to choose this. I can choose whatever I want. Yeah, I chose this right now, but I can choose something else for myself moving forward. And we might say, well, how can you make that choice? You make that choice through, like you say, what you consume, the habits that you practice. It all goes together. And I think it's a lot easier for us, and it's a lot more common for us to join how everybody else feels because we also like to feel accepted. As I said before, how I look at everything is extremely layered, but we like to feel accepted, and so it's not surprising to see that we be stressed over things we can't control. But it's also something that can be changed for us if we make the choice for ourselves. So anytime I see stress, my first thought goes to accountability and acceptance.
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely acceptance. You said accountability and acceptance. Yeah, yeah. I think that definitely that helps in the process of relieving stress for sure. Um, for sure, in my experience, right? Accepting what is And then, like you were saying, taking accountability for the quality of your experience by managing how you spend your time and energy in a way that's more aligned with, your values and goals and your optimal well-being, for sure. Yeah. I mean, and to also think about it as like it would make sense to be stressed about inflation. Now, it is important, I think, to understand like what's causing your stress, like where it's coming from for you, because it's I would think like you think about a war, you think about these people, I don't remember the number. I don't want to say millions, but it might be. It was either four. I think it's like 400 million or some people are probably going to be displaced by what's happening right now. It was a very large number from what I remember seeing. But just thinking about right this quality in us that is social and that cares for other people and for the well-being of others. And so it's common. It would make sense to be experiencing these things and to experience stress. Nothing wrong with that. Uh, it's also then remembering that we get an opportunity to control the narrative overall in how we go through the process of experiencing this and then responding to it in a way that makes the most sense for us so that we can be the best us for the people that we might want to care for and want to see their lives change, right? If we're not doing what we can to manage our mental and emotional well-being during this time, then if we do care right about the well-being of others, we wouldn't even be able to help if we could in some of these cases because we are not caring for ourselves. And so it's definitely just remembering that stress is a part of life. Stress isn't, and I honestly don't even look at stress as a bad thing. It's just it happens, and based on our level of awareness in that moment when we experience it, that will determine, how we choose to cope with what we are experiencing, and if we're able in that moment to keep our responses to what we experience aligned with our values and goals and our optimal function. So yeah.
Um, Real quick. That stress, the I just looked up the definition of just what stress is, and it says stress is the feeling of being overwhelmed or unable to cope with mental or emotional pressure. And I mean, just thinking about that, it leads me back to what I was saying about the whole accountability and acceptance thing. So I was really curious to know like what the definition of like just and with it being rooted in the mental or emotional pressure. I mean, what we talk about is absolutely perfect for it because it is your level of emotional intelligence. Because it's just honestly, I look at stress like to make it really simple. I look at stress as a reaction rather than a response. And so that's kind of how I classify it is, and it's not again like you said, it's not good or bad. I don't classify anything as good or bad. I classify it as what kind of experience do you want to have, and you're gonna have whichever one you choose. It's just if I looked at stress, it would be more of a reaction rather than a response to something. That's just something I was thinking about.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, and I think continuing to highlight this fact that it's not good or bad. I will say though, I normally attach things to like workability. So when I say workability, I'm saying, does this contribute to my overall well-being, right? Or like, what is this contributing to my overall well-being? If I'm doing something that is impacting my well-being in the opposite direction of what I want to see, which for me is like optimal well-being, then that means that whatever that thing is not workable for me, and it's up to me to make the adjustments necessary for me to align myself with this, goal of maintaining optimal health while I'm here. And so, yeah, it's not necessarily good or bad. It's just how we choose to respond to it. Even though, yes, like you were describing, Nick, it's a natural reaction. It's we were we've kind of been programmed for that to be the case far before the powers that be. We have an internal system designed to point out danger, right? Like that's we were designed to survive. So it's okay to experience stress. It's just what we do after that experience is what will influence the quality of our lives currently and as we know, for generations to come based on how we choose to respond to what we experience. So yeah, just want to share this just to, for you all just to be mindful of what's happening. Now, don't shut your mind off to what's happening, but understand that it's okay to experience it and that you still get a choice and an opportunity to maintain optimal well-being and to be the person that you want to be, right? Even though there's a lot of stuff happening right now outside of our control. All right. That's all we got for you today. Thank you all for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you all next week. Feel free to tune, or not feel free, be sure to tune into this week's episode of the Balance Period podcast. As I mentioned before, we talked about 3 tips that will help you better manage your morning routine so you can feel good, function at your best, and make sure that you're keeping your cup full, filling your cup to start the day. And then, of course, we already talked about your midday routine, but kind of handing yourself off to your midday already, right? Already where you want to be mentally, physically, and emotionally. So, Nick, anything that you want to leave everyone with today?
Yeah. Be kind to yourself as you would a friend in need, and enjoy your journey how you see fit. You got this. No need to overthink.
All right. And for me, we're unable to fill anyone else's cup if our cup is empty. So be sure to prioritize time for self care. Continue to learn, continue to grow, and develop your sustainable self care system. Lastly, you don't have to be perfect in order to be great. So be patient with yourself and be kind to yourself as you travel along this journey of incrementally improving your quality of life. All you have to do in order to become the change that you want to see in your community and in the world around you is to get started and keep going. So, thank you all once again for tuning in to this episode of Mindful Mondays, and we hope that you make this a great week. Peace.